Okay, let's learn how to reuse someone else's quiz. So here I am in my dashboard, and I come down to my resources, and that's strangely named, of course, because if somebody else has written a quiz, it's not really my resource, is it? But that's what we're going to do. You can see it whirring away here. Once it's finished whirring away, you get a choice to refine your search. So obviously I'm an English teacher, so I'm going to pick English as a subject. That will narrow things down a little bit. And then I'm going to select quizzes. So let's get on with that. One for English. And then here I'm going to select the quiz. And quizzes will show up shortly. So that way I can find any quiz and scroll down through them and find the one that I want. So here we go. There's the scroll bar, and I can just find any quiz at all. However, you'll notice down here that there are up to 4 pages of quizzes, so that's not going to be that useful if you're in a department that's been really efficient and provided lots of quizzes for you. So we're going to use the shortcut of this search box here. So let's imagine that I only want to do quizzes on Macbeth. So I put Macbeth in as my keyword, and then I find that there are only 4 quizzes available. I can reuse it to set the homework, but actually I want to know what's in that quiz. So I'll open it up by clicking on this bit here, and then I'm placed in the role of the student. Now what's important about this is I can do the activity for myself, but it also becomes a brilliant starter activity or period, an activity that you can introduce during the lesson. It doesn't have to be at the start. So let's see what this looks like. So we'll preview the quiz. This is what it looks like on the interactive whiteboard or your screen, and you can simply go through. I'm just going to click at random so that you can see how it works. The quizzes are much better if you have 4 alternatives. If you only have 3, it's much too easy to guess at random the right one. Although you can see I'm not doing very well here. And then of course you get I haven't clicked on one, sorry. Then you get your score. You've got the opportunity to retake the quiz, so you can do it as a class. And why that's important, I'll show you now. So this is the University of Los Angeles, and we're looking at Professor Robert Bjork's work here. If you're not familiar with it, it's really having a major influence on not just how your lessons should work, but actually how you should set up your curriculum. Without going into too much detail, the important thing to find out about this is not educational research which is done in an ivory tower sort of way. This is done under controlled conditions. So the conclusions are replicable in every single school. Doesn't matter what your setting is like, because these are laboratory-based conditions that give this information about memory. Well, let's scroll down and see what it's telling us. If I just look at the contents, because we're not going to read this stuff. However, what we've got here is that memory works better if you test it. And even more importantly than that, if you give the test first before you teach something, it means that students remember what they then learn much better, because they have a kind of mental map and mental connections to hang it on. So the first rule is test your students first. Then this brilliant idea of the forgetting curve, which means that you want to use your quizzes at ever increasing intervals, and this will force students to remember more. So if I tested with the same quiz every day for a week, I would get far less benefit than doing it once after 10 minutes, then after a day, then once after a week, and then once after 2 weeks, once after 4. I would test just as many times, but because I'm increasing the gaps all the time, students remember a lot more. And that is linked to the theory of disuse. So when your brain starts to forget things and then gets tested again here, it makes much better connections in the neural pathways, and the memories are therefore much more strengthened. So this suggests that having big gaps, spacing, is what's required, ever bigger gaps, So you're going to reuse your quizzes. So I make a quiz for the English department. They all reuse it at later and later intervals. And similarly, they make a quiz and I reuse it at later and later intervals. This is called a desirable difficulty. There are others, but the spacing itself is a desirable difficulty, and it's desirable because it makes memory better. Interleaving suggests that I should introduce that quiz at random points during the learning. So by random, I mean the intervals might have been planned, but let's say I'm teaching maths, I might be teaching quadratic equations here, but I'm suddenly going to give them a test on area that we covered a month ago. So that's what interleaving means. It's got nothing to do with what you're studying at the minute. You're testing them on something you did before. Now, obviously, your new quizzes might take 5 questions from something that you studied last week, another 5 from something you did 2 weeks ago, another 5 from something that you did a month ago. And that's the idea of interleaving, splicing things in. So I hope that helps you work out why the quiz is so important. Now, what's even better about the quiz in Show My Homework is that you can see students get 3 attempts. So here's a quiz my class did. The average percentage was 89%, and you can see how this student has improved their score. Let's scroll down. So their first go was very high at 19 out of 25, but you can see how they improved all the way through. Now that's learning, but it's not embedded yet until the quiz is redone next day or in a week's time, and then 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and so on. So we keep increasing the gap. So I hope you can see how valuable your quizzes are going to be in helping students to remember. But obviously, the key thing is to test them on the stuff you need them to know. And once you put that in the quiz, learning becomes inevitable, simply because that's just the way the brain works. And if you want to know more, visit the Forgetting Lab. There it is there. So those are your keywords for Google, or if you want to, you can simply use that address. Good luck.